On today's podcast, we're going to discuss being ready for anything, so stay tuned. Welcome to Warehouse Safety Tips. You can find the show notes to each episode, links to information mentioned on the podcast, the social media platforms we're on, and anything else related to the podcast at warehousesafetytips.com. Now, if you're a seasoned podcast listener, this podcast is going to be different from most you listen to. It's based around exactly what the name implies, warehouse safety tips. And since the people in this industry are busy, we know that time is money and each episode will be as short and to the point as possible. And now, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the podcast. Do you know the official motto of the United States Coast Guard? It's the Latin phrase Semper Paratus, which means always ready. If you're not familiar with it, you might know the Boy Scouts motto, be prepared. Both provide a ready for anything mindset. Now, when you see an armed guard, a defibrillator, or a fire extinguisher, it doesn't always mean that there's a crime occurring, somebody's having a heart attack, and or that there's a fire. What it means is that the location you're in is prepared in the event that it should happen, but you can't always know what's coming. Now, for the last couple of weeks, I've mentioned the fact that we're in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. I've also mentioned that it's not an evergreen practice by bringing it up, but it's brought about so many changes that it's almost impossible not to. In the past podcast, we spoke about why certain floor markings and signs are displayed. Sometimes it's preventative, but other times it's just because it actually occurred enough times that you have to warn about it potentially happening again. And even though cleanliness should always be something that we practice, the coronavirus pandemic is one of those situations where floor markings and signs follow the situation. Whether it's being told how we're supposed to stand near one another via social distancing, being reminded to wash our hands and how to properly sneeze and cough, or the importance of using hand sanitizer and protective gear, we're seeing new safety floor markings and signs more and more every day. Before moving on, here's a word from one of our sponsors. If you've ever been to or worked in a warehouse, you know just how important safety is to both management and staff. It's almost impossible to go 10 steps without seeing safety tape, angles, signs, and or safety products. It's these items that show us how to be safe and avoid danger in the workplace. And if you're looking for the best products to make this happen, look no further than Mighty Line. Mighty Line floor signs and floor markings offer the best industrial products out there. We're proud to have Mighty Line as the official floor sign and floor marking company for the Warehouse Safety Tips podcast and site. Go to mightylinetape.com/safety tips to request a sample pack of their incredible safety signs and floor markings. Now back to the podcast. So how can you prepare for a situation like this in the future? That's where safety teams come into effect. You might not know it's coming, but planning for how you're going to handle potential situations is of the utmost importance. That's yet another way that the 6S methodology, which is the classic 5S methodology with safety added as the 6th S, can be utilized. It can be as simple as assuring that you have contacts in place around your community with different skill sets that might be called upon in case of an emergency or a situation. Developing SOPs, which are standard operating procedures based on potential situations, or something as simple as walking your facility on a regular basis to not only recognize what's working and where there's potential for changes, but also to discuss what if this happens scenarios. The point is being ready and expecting the unexpected, and in doing so, being proactive toward keeping your facility and your staff organized, productive, and most importantly, safe. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Warehouse Safety Tips. If you visit warehousesafetytips.com, you'll find the show notes for this episode and access to all of our blog posts, previous podcasts, advertiser information, and much more. Thank you for listening to Warehouse Safety Tips and have a safe day.